The modern hamburger is arguably the most globally recognized symbol of American cuisine, but its origins are a blend of industrial-era convenience and immigrant influence. The concept traces back to Hamburg steak, a minced beef patty popular among 19th century German immigrants. However, the American innovation was placing that patty between two slices of bread, a move largely credited to Louis Lunch in New Vilbin, Connecticut around 1900 to serve factory workers a hearty meal they could eat on the go. Over the decades, the hamburger evolved from a cheap, questionable street food into a highly engineered fast food staple, thanks to chains like White Castle and McDonald's. Today, the American hamburger exists in two main camps: the fast food smash burger, where a thin patty is pressed hard onto a blistering griddle to maximize the Maillard reaction for crispy, caramelized edges, and the thick, juicy pub-style burger cooked over an open flame. The standard architecture, a soft bun, melted American or cheddar cheese, crisp lettuce, a slice of tomato, pickles, and a sauce combining ketchup, mustard, and mayonnaise, provides a perfectly balanced profile of fat, acid, and salt that dominates American dining. Like the hamburger, the hot dog evolved from European sausages, specifically the Frankfurters of Germany and the Wieners of Austria. In the United States, they became a working-class staple, popularized by Eastern European immigrants in New York in the late 19th century. Nathan Handwerker's stand on Coney Island turned the hot dog into a cultural phenomenon. What makes the American hot dog unique is the extreme regional tribalism regarding its toppings. The New York style is minimalist, featuring a beef frankfurter topped with spicy brown mustard and tangy sauerkraut or a sweet onion sauce. The Chicago dog, by contrast, is famously complex and dragged through the garden. Served on a poppy seed bun, an all-beef Vienna Frank is piled with yellow mustard, neon green sweet relish, chopped raw onions, tomato slices, a dill pickle spear, pickled sport peppers, and a dash of celery salt, but absolutely no ketchup. Meanwhile, in the Southwest, the Sonoran hot dog wraps the sausage in bacon, grills it, and buries it under pinto beans, onions, jalapenos, and mayonnaise, showing how this simple sausage acts as a blank canvas for American regional flavors. American barbecue is less of a single food and more of a deeply regional religion, tracing its roots back to the indigenous Caribbean Taino technique of barbacoa, which was adapted by enslaved Africans and European settlers in the American South. True American barbecue is defined by low and slow cooking over indirect wood fire. Texas barbecue, specifically in the central region, revolves around beef brisket. The meat is rubbed simply with coarse salt and black pepper and smoked over post oak for up to 18 hours until the dense connective tissue melts into gelatin, creating a crusty exterior called bark. Moving east, Carolina barbecue focuses entirely on pork. North Carolina splits between the Eastern style, which smokes the whole hog and chops it with a sharp, fiery vinegar sauce to cut the rich fat, and the Western Lexington style, which uses only the pork shoulder and adds a touch of tomato to the vinegar. Further inland, Kansas City barbecue is known for burnt ends, the crispy, fatty tips of the brisket, slathered in the thick, sweet molasses and tomato-based sauce that most of the world associates with American barbecue. Memphis style rounds out the map, famous for pork ribs served either wet with sauce or dry, heavily coated in a complex spice rub. Southern fried chicken represents a culinary collision between Scottish immigrants who had a tradition of pan-frying chicken in fat and enslaved West Africans who introduced complex spice profiles and the use of palm oil. The quintessential American fried chicken requires breaking a bird down into parts, marinating it, often in a buttermilk brine to tenderize the meat and provide a counterpoint to the rich fat, and coating it in seasoned flour.
The traditional cooking method involves cast iron skillet frying rather than deep frying, which results in a distinct craggy golden brown crust while sealing in the meat's juices. A modern, hyper-regional variant that has taken over the country is Nashville hot chicken. Originating in Tennessee's Black communities, this version takes freshly fried chicken and douses it in a fiery paste made of lard and intense amounts of cayenne pepper. It's served on a slice of cheap white bread to absorb the bright red, spicy grease, topped with sweet pickle chips to offer a momentary relief from the heat. Though pasta and cheese have existed in Europe for centuries, the American iteration of macaroni and cheese has a distinct trajectory. Thomas Jefferson famously encountered macaroni in Europe and brought a macaroni making machine back to the States. However, it was his enslaved chef, James Hemings, who truly perfected the baked dish, layering macaroni with rich cheeses and butter to serve at high society dinners. For over a century, it was a wealthy person's dish. That changed dramatically during the Great Depression of the 1930s, when Kraft introduced its boxed macaroni and cheese dinners. Combining cheap pasta with processed powdered cheese, it provided an inexpensive, high-calorie meal for struggling families. Today, the dish occupies a dual identity in America. On one hand, it remains the ultimate comfort food via the bright orange, nostalgic boxed version. On the other, the traditional baked macaroni and cheese, featuring a bechamel sauce enriched with sharp cheddar, Gruyere, and sometimes pepper jack, topped with breadcrumbs and baked until bubbling and browned, remains a mandatory side dish at Thanksgiving dinners, Southern meat and three restaurants, and high-end steakhouses alike. Clam chowder is a hearty seafood-based soup that perfectly illustrates the geographic and cultural divides of the American Northeast. New England clam chowder is the most famous, designed to ward off the brutal Atlantic winters. It features a thick, creamy milk or cream base loaded with tender chunks of local quahog clams, potatoes, onions, and salt pork or bacon. The texture is rich and velvety, historically thickened with hardtack biscuits, but today usually relying on flour and heavy cream. It is traditionally served with small hexagonal oyster crackers sprinkled on top. Just a few hours south, Manhattan clam chowder takes a completely different approach. Influenced by the large populations of Italian and Portuguese immigrants in New York, the Manhattan version completely eliminates the dairy, using a clear tomato-based broth instead. It is significantly more acidic and vegetable-forward, often incorporating carrots, celery, and a heavy dose of thyme. The rivalry between the two is so intense that in 1939, a bill was jokingly introduced in the Maine legislature, attempting to make it a criminal offense to add tomatoes to clam chowder. The Philly cheesesteak is the undisputed culinary king of Philadelphia, invented in the 1930s by hot dog vendor Pat Olivieri. The sandwich is a masterclass in greasy, satisfying indulgence. It starts with incredibly thin slices of beef, usually ribeye, cooked on a blazing hot flat-top griddle. As the meat browns, the cook vigorously chops it with spatulas. The meat is then scooped into a long, crusty Italian roll, traditionally sourced from local bakeries like Amoroso's. The crust of the roll must be firm enough to hold up to the grease, but soft enough inside to absorb the juices. The defining element, however, is the cheese. The three acceptable options are mild provolone, American cheese, or, most iconically, Cheese Whiz, a processed neon orange cheese sauce that melts perfectly into the crevices of the chopped beef. Ordering a cheesesteak in Philadelphia comes with its own localized syntax. Whiz Wit means you want Cheese Whiz and grilled caramelized onions, and Whiz Without means you want provolone cheese and no onions. When Italian immigrants brought Neapolitan pizza to the United States in the late 19th century, American ingredients and engineering completely transformed it, splitting it into distinct regional styles. New York-style pizza evolved to feed people on the move. It features a large, wide pie cut into massive slices with a thin, flexible crust that must be folded in half long ways to be eaten with one hand. The dough is slightly chewy, and the sauce is generally sweet and heavily seasoned with oregano, topped with a dense layer of low-moisture mozzarella. Chicago deep dish, invented in the 1940s, is essentially a savory pie. Baked in a deep, round steel pan, heavily coated with corn oil or butter, the dough is pushed up the sides. The ingredients are assembled backwards to prevent burning during the long baking time. Thick slices of mozzarella go straight on the dough, followed by massive layers of meat like Italian sausage, and finally covered in a chunky, crushed tomato sauce. Detroit-style pizza is having a modern renaissance. Baked in rectangular blue steel automotive parts pans, it yields a thick, airy, focaccia-like crust. The defining feature is the fricco edge, a crispy, caramelized, blackened ring of
The buffalo wing transformed a throwaway cut of poultry into a multi-billion-dollar American sports bar industry. Invented in 1964 at the Anchor Bar in Buffalo, New York, the concept was remarkably simple but revolutionary. Prior to this, chicken wings were mostly used to make soup stock. The Anchor Bar took unbreaded wing sections, flats and drumettes, deep-fried them until the skin was shattering crisp, and tossed them in an emulsion of melted butter and a cayenne pepper-based hot sauce, usually Frank's Red Hot. The butter acts to mellow the harsh acidity of the vinegar and coats the crispy skin perfectly. To combat the intense heat and heavy fat, they are traditionally served with chilled, crunchy celery sticks and a side of creamy blue cheese dressing. The buffalo wing perfectly captured the American desire for shareable, highly seasoned finger food, becoming inextricably linked with the culture of watching American football. Gumbo is the official state cuisine of Louisiana and serves as a literal melting pot of the cultures that shape the region: West African, French, Spanish, and Choctaw Native American. At the heart of any true gumbo is the roux, a mixture of flour and fat, usually oil or lard, cooked slowly over low heat until it toasts to a deep, dark chocolate brown. This dark roux loses its thickening power, but gains an incredibly deep, complex, nutty flavor. To this, the holy trinity of Cajun and Creole cooking is added: diced onions, celery, and green bell peppers. The stew is further thickened either by okra, a plant brought over by enslaved West Africans. In fact, the word gumbo derives from West African words for okra, or filet powder, made from dried sassafras leaves introduced by the Choctaw. The two main variations are seafood gumbo, heavily reliant on Gulf shrimp, oysters, and crab, and meat gumbo, which almost always features chicken and smoky, spicy andouille sausage. It is always served over white rice. The lobster roll is the quintessential summer food of coastal New England. For early American colonists, lobster was considered a trash fish, so abundant that it was fed to prisoners and used as crop fertilizer. Today, it is a luxury ingredient, and the lobster roll is its most celebrated casual preparation. There are two warring factions in the lobster roll world. The main style is served cold. Chunks of sweet, freshly steamed lobster meat are lightly dressed with a touch of mayonnaise, maybe some finely diced celery for crunch, and a squeeze of lemon juice. The Connecticut style, which is actually the older of the two, serves the lobster meat warm, completely bathing it in rich, drawn butter. Both versions share one non-negotiable component: the bun. A traditional split-top New England-style hot dog bun must be used, and the flat, exposed sides of the bun must be buttered and griddled on a flat-top griddle until golden brown and crisp. This provides a crucial textural contrast to the soft, sweet meat. Biscuits and gravy is a heavy, unapologetic cornerstone of Southern American breakfast culture. It emerged out of necessity in the late 19th century as a cheap, incredibly calorie-dense meal designed to fuel manual laborers, factory workers, and lumberjacks for a long day of physical work. The dish consists of two elements that must be executed perfectly. First are the biscuits, soft, towering, flaky breads leavened with baking powder and baking soda, relying heavily on buttermilk and cold butter or lard to create steam pockets that puff the dough up in the oven. The second is the sawmill gravy. This is made by frying loose pork sausage in a cast iron skillet. The cooked sausage is temporarily removed and flour is whisked directly into the rendered pork fat to create a quick roux. Whole milk is then poured in, simmering until it forms a thick, creamy sauce that is heavily seasoned with coarse black pepper. The cooked sausage is stirred back in, and the entire mixture is ladled generously over the split, warm biscuits. Cornbread represents one of the oldest culinary traditions in North America, evolving from the corn-based foods of indigenous tribes like the Cherokee and Navajo. As European settlers arrived, they adapted their baking techniques to the native maize, which grew much better in the southern climate than wheat. Today, a fierce cultural divide exists over how cornbread should be made. Southern cornbread is strictly savory. It uses stone-ground cornmeal, buttermilk, and a touch of baking soda, but strictly no sugar. Crucially, the batter is poured into a smoking hot cast iron skillet that has been preheated with bacon drippings. This technique essentially deep fries the bottom of the batter, creating an intensely crunchy, savory crust, while the inside bakes into a dense, crumbly crumb. Northern cornbread, on the other hand, often mixes yellow cornmeal with all-purpose wheat flour and includes a significant amount of sugar or honey. It is baked in standard pans, resulting in a lighter, sweeter, more cake-like texture that Southern purists often derisively refer to as corn muffins. Jambalaya is a robust, heavily spiced rice dish from Louisiana that showcases the region's Spanish and French influences. It is deeply related to the Spanish paella, brought by Spanish colonists to New Orleans, but adapted to utilize the ingredients of the New World. Unlike gumbo, where the rice is cooked separately and the stew is poured over it, jambalaya cooks the rice directly in the heavily seasoned broth, allowing the grains to absorb all the intense flavors of the meats, vegetables, and spices. There are two primary styles. Creole jambalaya, often called red jambalaya, comes from New Orleans and includes tomatoes, which were accessible in the city. Cajun jambalaya, or brown jambalaya, comes from the rural swamp and bayou areas. It completely omits tomatoes, instead relying on the deep caramelization of the meats, usually smoky andouille sausage, chicken, and sometimes pork or wild game, to give the dish its dark, rich color before adding the holy trinity, broth and rice. The Reuben is a masterpiece of the American deli, a sandwich that balances intense saltiness, rich fat, sour tang, and creamy sweetness. Its exact origins is heavily disputed. Some claim it was invented by a grocer named Reuben Kulikowski in Omaha, Nebraska, while others insist it originated at Arnold Reuben's Deli in New York City. Regardless of its birthplace, the architecture is universally agreed upon. It begins with thin slices of heavily cured, spiced corned beef. This is piled high onto slices of hearty Jewish rye bread, often marbled with caraway seeds. Topping the meat is a generous layer of Swiss cheese, a pile of fermented, tangy sauerkraut, and a heavy slather of Russian dressing, a mix of mayonnaise, ketchup, horseradish, and spices. The entire sandwich is then buttered on the outside and pressed on a flat grill until the bread is deeply toasted and the cheese melts thoroughly into the meat and kraut, creating a complex, savory, and intensely rich eating experience. Key lime pie is the definitive dessert of Florida, born out of the isolated tropical conditions of the Florida Keys in the 19th century. The star ingredient is the key lime, a citrus variety that is much smaller, yellower, and significantly more tart and aromatic than the standard Persian limes found in most grocery stores. Because the Keys lacked dairy farms and refrigeration before the 1930s, fresh milk was unavailable. To compensate, locals relied on canned, sweetened condensed milk. The traditional recipe requires just 3 ingredients for the filling: key lime juice, egg yolks, and sweetened condensed milk. The high acidity of the lime juice naturally reacts with the proteins in the milk and egg yolks, causing the mixture to magically thicken without baking, a chemical process called souring. Today, it is usually baked briefly for food safety.
It is poured into a sweet, crumbly graham cracker crust and topped with either a cloud of toasted meringue, which uses up the leftover egg whites, or a thick layer of freshly whipped cream. Fajitas are a relatively modern phenomenon that exploded in popularity in the 1980s, but their roots go back to the 1930s among Tejano cowboys, or vaqueros. During cattle roundups, vaqueros were often paid partly in meat, specifically the less desirable, tough throwaway cuts like the skirt steak. The word fajita actually translates to little strap or little belt, referring to the skirt steak itself. The vaqueros learned to tenderize this tough cut by marinating it in citrus and pounding it, then grilling it quickly over mesquite wood campfires. In the commercialized American Tex-Mex restaurant world, fajitas evolved into a theatrical dining experience. Slices of marinated, grilled steak, or later chicken and shrimp, are brought to the table on a blazing hot, smoking cast iron skillet, resting on a bed of heavily caramelized onions and bell peppers. The diner then constructs their own tacos, wrapping the sizzling meat and vegetables in warm, fresh flour tortillas, topping them with guacamole, sour cream, shredded cheddar cheese, and salsa. The chocolate chip cookie is so fundamentally American that it's hard to imagine a time before it existed. Unlike many foods with ambiguous ancient origins, this has a specific birth date and inventor, Ruth Graves Wakefield, who ran the Toll House Inn in Whitman, Massachusetts in 1938. As the story goes, she was baking a batch of butter drop dew cookies and ran out of baker's chocolate. As a substitute, she chopped up a block of Nestle semi-sweet chocolate, assuming the chunks would melt into the dough to create a uniform chocolate cookie. Instead, the chunks held their shape, softening into gooey, sweet pockets of chocolate, surrounded by a buttery vanilla and brown sugar dough. The resulting cookie was a massive hit. Nestle noticed a spike in chocolate bar sales in Massachusetts and soon struck a deal with Wakefield.